Hello there, and welcome to Darksiders 2. It's been a while since I've played this, but I'm playing it today for a very specific reason. Having played through the Crucible in Darksiders 3 and had some issues with it, shall we say. Not to the extent that it's terrible content or anything like that, but it wasn't as exciting as I'd hoped, and it wasn't as stable as I'd hoped. I've been having a discussion in the comments section on the videos, and one of the posters, a guy by the name of Craig Cochrane, shout out to you, mate, has posted a few things that I thought seemed very sensible in terms of the underlying thought behind what the issues with Darksiders 3's Crucible are. So he talks about how, and I've got them on the other monitor here, Wicked K, better designed fight for Darksiders 3. Named bosses, the reskins were interesting enough. Poor wave choices, saying that the Crucible in Darksiders 2 did it better, and that's one of the things that I'm going to be looking at today, because I didn't play this for my Darksiders 2 playthrough that I did before 3 came out, so I can't really remember. Lack of interesting enemies, or some of the interesting enemies from Darksiders 3, for example the big skeleton knights, the skeletal champions, and some of the demon ones as well, don't appear. One of the things that I have, it's a long way down to the floor, I've got the Darksiders 3 strategy guide, and let's get that out of the way, on page 62, I think it is, I did check this earlier, 62 and onwards, it gives you a chapter, this is going to be reversed of course, on the Forces of Chaos, and it tells you all of the different enemies in the game. And there are a chunk of these that aren't here, but of course one of the things about Darksiders 3 is that a lot of the enemies are in groups. So we've got the Swarm, which are the guys that throw mushrooms at you, or the kind of zombie guys that you find at the start. You've got the Sycophants, who are the kind of lizardy things that throw knives at you or teleport in, the Zappy Boys, as I call them, and there's 7 different types of those. Don't know whether I knew that. There's the Suffering, which are these guys, which we only saw once, maybe twice I think. There's the Insects, which include the things with the green capsules on their back, the crabs, the spidery things, those annoying things that charge at you and shoot you up into the air, plus all the different mosquito enemies. You've got the Minions, who are the kind of lizard things that throw knives and then leap at you. The various different types of skeletons, including the archers, the sword skeletons, the club skeletons that do that big downward sweeping green explosion, and the skeletal champions, who are the ones with the shields that, aren't present in the Crucible for whatever reason. Which is a shame, because 1 or 2 of those would have livened it up a bit. You get the 2 different kinds of lava creatures, the brutes are the big ones, the abominations are the little ones that hurl rocks at you. The various different types of undead. One type that's not present is this guy, who are the kind of skeletal summoners. What are they actually called? Undead penitents, apparently, who summon things in. You get a couple of different kinds of angels, the fish and the lurkers and the deep lurkers, the various different types of legion, the avarice children, those little buggers that throw bombs at you, they're not in the Crucible, and obviously the Mansk don't do anything. So that is the selection of enemies that they can choose from, and actually if you look through that, there are quite a lot of different types of enemies in Darksiders 3. There just don't seem to be as many, because some of them are quite similar. So I haven't played this in ages, and in fact I'm just going to have to swap off that. There we go. Now, the frame rate is likely to take a dip. In fact, the frame rate is taking a dip. Hold on 1 second. Right, I'm not entirely sure why, but Darksiders 2's engine is really messing with OBS. I've had to turn the preview window off, so I have no idea what I look like. Okay, so...
I see you got our little invitation. Welcome then to the Crucible!
Thanks.
Here, the strongest are tested, and the weak are destroyed.
Okay, so visually, there are indeed some differences in the Crucible. Obviously, it looks, in terms of its general overall layout, it's very much the same. But you've got these archways and a golden glow in the backdrop, which gives it a much more warm and homely and victorious feel to things. You've still got your cool runes on the way in. And here we have... Is this bigger? Actually, no, it's not bigger. It's just that death moves slower. Now, obviously, this is a slightly... a slightly less detailed version of the model because, you know, everything got upscaled for...
Let me explain the rules, of which
for Darksiders 3.
There are few. The more creatures you defeat, the deeper into the Crucible you'll go.
Yes.
At intervals, you'll be offered a reward. If you take the reward, you must exit. If not, you may continue. But if at any time you fall, you will earn
nothing.
Oh, and one last thing. No one has ever finished the Crucible.
No, really?
Besides me. Do you wish to enter?
Yes, bring it on.
Start. A brave decision.
Yeah, so the way things move about has very clearly changed. Okay, so we're going to start off with some constructs. I haven't played this in forever, so this is going to be... Ow. Why am I not taking any damage? Have I bugged it out? Or do they just not do enough damage? Now, obviously, Death is a lot more kind of nimble than Fury. Oh, these are only level 15, no wonder. Obviously, there were a lot more enemies on screen at once in Darksiders 2. And I think that is one thing that Darksiders 3 probably couldn't do. You've also, of course, got execution moves, which we don't have in Darksiders 3. I'm still going for perfect dodges here. Don't know why. That is not a thing. Yay! Yeah, see, already we've got some slightly larger enemies. Now, these champion constructs aren't particularly hard. I still don't know why I'm not taking any damage. Is it just because they're not very high level? I don't know. But there is a definite sense that there's a certain amount of grandeur to this particular version of the Crucible. Bong. Obviously, we're level 22 or something, I think. I can't remember. Oh, I am taking damage. There we go. Ow. Obviously, the health steal is an issue that is going to trivialise this. Can't even remember. I think this is just on normal difficulty as well. This is probably going to destroy the frame rate. No?
I believe this one may go far. You have survived so far. Is it
More punishment, please.
you want, or more punishment? He chooses to fight on.
He does. Bugs. Oh man, I'm still using the Darksiders 3 controls for things. Prowlers. So there's nothing particularly challenging in this yet, but we are a lot more powerful at this stage of the game. In Darksiders 3, just like in Darksiders 2, you can access the Crucible after certain milestones or certain waves in the Crucible. I can't remember what they are in this particular version, but I think it's probably tied to level, maybe? I don't know. One thing playing this again, after having not played it for a long time, it does really highlight how much more spammy combat is in Darksiders 2. Ow. Still going for those perfect dodges. Yeah, it certainly feels like there's more... I love how they die. It feels like there's more variety in how things, in how waves are presented. Ow. See, these things are level 17 now, so we've progressed a little bit. Now more enemies have joined the fray. So that's not just something that was unique to Darksiders 3. Okay. It is.
You have done well. Would you take this prize and leave, or continue further?
Let's go.
Chooses to fight on.
Bong. So back to constructs. Smash! Oh yeah. More constructs. Oh, and one of the floating head ones this time. I wonder why that hadn't locked on then. It's because they were all dead. Ow, ow. Now, the combat in this game, obviously, is completely trivialized by lifesteal. Especially on the harder difficulties, which aren't particularly hard in Darksiders 2. Darksiders 3, on the lower difficulties, yes, lifesteal does feel overpowered because it's 6% of whatever damage you do with whatever weapon it's attached to. But on the higher difficulties, I personally think the lifesteal is fine. How do I swap? That's it. Nope. I do definitely feel that Death has more options in combat. You know, the skill trees in Darksiders 2 were something that I liked. The gear, the loot drops, not a fan of. But the, ow. But, you know, having all these different spells and stuff that you could use to vary things up in combat were something that I very much appreciated. I am, in some ways, a bit sad that there's no executions in Darksiders 3. Ow. So this is gone. This is one of the earlier bosses, isn't it? I can't remember what wave we're on. It doesn't tell us in this. Slash! Was that wave 20? That may have been wave 20. More! Hurt me more!
Or continue further. He chooses to fight on.
I think that was wave 20. Oh no! That was wave 15. Yeah, there doesn't feel like there's as much skill necessary in Darksiders 2. That's one thing that I will say. Yes, there are more options, and combat is in some ways more varied. But I think the price for that is that actually it's just not very hard. But I suppose that is kind of the point. You're Death. You know, if Death wasn't a master of killing things, you know, everything in the media that we've seen about Death paints him as the ultimate kind of killer. You know, he's smart, he's agile, he's tactical. He's not blunt and brute force like War is. He's just... Oop. As I've said repeatedly, I've always likened Darksiders 2 to Prince of Persia and the kind of fast-paced flow of combat there. Whereas Fury, as a mage, is more tactical. She has to time her attacks, to take her chances and openings. Savage! You just gonna stand there? No? I'm still trying to perfect dodge. Smash! A lot of people think and find the busy nature of Darksiders 2 more appealing than Darksiders 3. Personally, I prefer not having a bazillion things on screen. They toned down the particle effects for Darksiders 3, and I'm super glad of that. Because I do find this is no place for a horse. Oh, just blew him up apparently. I do find combat in Darksiders 2 a little bit too flashy and glowy and busy. I can't remember whether the arena changes shape in Darksiders 2 either, or whether we're just stuck with this for the whole time. But yeah, it just feels so much spammier. And I'm sure on a higher difficulty it requires a little bit more thought, but not a lot.
A tireless avenger, are we?
Yes.
You have survived. So far. Is it the prize and freedom you want, or more punishment?
I will risk it. I do. I'm kind of tired of seeing constructs now. Can't see what's going on. Dope. Ow. Hey. See how easy it is to regain your health. Corrupted Custodian! It's about time we got a bit of a change of pace. Whee! Chank. I do like these little kind of finishing animations that you get. Those were missed in Darksiders 3. Yeah! But yeah, we're getting bigger enemies like that as kind of mini-bosses. Ah! Trapped! And that is kind of an issue with Darksiders 3. There weren't really any mini-bosses to work with. I think because the individual enemies were more challenging, they maybe felt the need, or that they didn't need to put mini-bosses in. But another possibility is just because it was made by so few people, especially in comparison to this. I mean, I think didn't they say that there were like 120 people or 160 people working on Darksiders 2 versus the 40 or so that were working on Darksiders 3. So you can kind of see why they might not have as many, you know, individual assets and stuff to be working with. Yeah, I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just trying to create comparisons and discourse about the differences. Gorn! Whoa! Oh, hello, there's two of you. Probably don't want to stand in that. I can't see! Have some birds. Yeah, I'm probably not going to play the whole thing of this because I've kind of made my points, I think. There's definitely more variety in Darksiders 2 in terms of, you know, enemies and so on and so forth. Basically because I believe there are more enemies and variety of enemies in Darksiders 2. Mace Maximus. A weapon of incredible power. See, you can tell I haven't played on this at all. But whilst there may definitely be more variety because of these mini-bosses, because there's more variety in terms of enemies, the actual combat itself just isn't as interesting. Wave 25. Obviously, they're still reusing. Nah. Uh-oh. Take that. I do like Death's Reaper form. I think I still prefer Fury's Havoc form, just in terms of its overall look. But yeah, I think it's the purple on Death's Reaper form I really like. Ow. Gotcha. Way! Heartstone Talisman. Okay. Let's keep on going for a bit. I want to see whether the actual arena changes. I can't remember if it does or not. You know, obviously in... Skeletons. Spooky, scary skeletons. Obviously in Darksiders 3's Crucible, the outer rings and these platforms raise much earlier on. Skeleton archers! What? Where am I going? Ow. Smash! Yeah, get any kind of lifesteal in the Darksiders 2 Crucible, and you're basically sorted. And it really does trivialise the game. And obviously you could say, well, I won't use it then. Ow. I've always liked the hammer combat in this game. Just these big, slow, meaty attacks. I find the spammy nature of the scythes actually less interesting. Come here. Take that. Kaboom. Club boys. I don't know why, but I'm, you know, this was what, wave 29, wave 30, something like that. I'm starting to feel a little bit bored almost, in the sense that just because the combat isn't as interesting and the enemies don't have any real challenge to them. You know, I think the variety of enemies is better in Darksiders 2's Crucible. But yeah, the combat in Darksiders 3 is more interesting and more challenging. And, you know, obviously I'm coming from the perspective of somebody who likes the Souls games, who likes Dark Souls 3, who likes Bloodborne, and who likes the original combat in Darksiders 3. The only reason I've changed in my kind of Darksiders 3 Crucible videos, the only reason I changed to the classic combat is because things were taking so long and were lacking that variety that we've got here in the Darksiders 2 Crucible. I think a kind of cross between the two would be better, more variety. Even if that meant just pulling on some of these other enemies, or using some of the enemies from Darksiders 3 that just weren't in the Crucible, or mixing them up a little bit more. For example, the Corrupted Scribes, or whatever they're called, we didn't see much use of those in the Crucible. They were in what, maybe 2 waves, possibly 3? When the Griffin, the Undead Griffin, when that was in waves, that was much more interesting because it's got a variety of attacks that are harder to avoid. The same goes for the Mimics. They are fast, they are agile, and you have to work harder in order to kill those. The Skeletal Champions with the Spear and Shield, I think really would have been useful to drop into the Crucible. Put 2 of those in one wave, and maybe something fast to go with it, and you're probably going to struggle. You're going to have to use skill. And that is the thing that I think a lot of people didn't like about Darksiders 3. It required timing and, to an extent, a certain amount of skill. Now, some people will say, oh yeah, Darksiders 3's combat is really dull. It is just dodge at the right time, counter. Dodge at the right time, counter. And that is true. You know, do I think they could have done with some more options in combat? Yes. You know, especially now I've had time to stand back and really say, you know what, let's look at this from a more objective perspective. You know, if I bring up what button is it on here? I can't remember. How do I bring up the weapon wheel?
I have to go alone.
that. So if you bring up the weapon wheel, or the ability wheel on this, obviously you've got more options as Death. You've got more abilities that you can use. You've got more spells. If we take a look at the skill tree, there we go. You know, we've got all of these different options of abilities. Now, obviously, I very rarely bothered in any of the playthroughs that I've done. I never really bothered with the Harbinger tree because it was all melee, and the melee isn't very interesting for me. I much preferred the necromancy, the spell casting side of things. Don't know why, personal preference, but you have that option. You have those choices that you can make, which Fury doesn't. Fury's path is linear. Does she have skill ups? Yeah, you know, you've got stats that you can raise, but they're not really very interesting or in depth. You've got the weapons that you can upgrade. You know, if we take a look at Death's weapons, I absolutely hated this system. I hated the inventory management. I just didn't like it at all. What have I got? Didn't realise that the Angel of Death stuff was so much more hefty in terms of stats. Anyway, I didn't like this inventory system. You spend so much time in the inventory in Darksiders 2 just dealing with all of the loot. Which isn't to say that there's no loot system in Darksiders 3, because of course there is. You've got, you know, all your different types of consumables and stuff. Your consumable souls, your consumable potions and stuff. But the sheer weight of it, the sheer volume of trash. And I know you could use a lot of that in leveling up your possessed weapons and stuff, but I didn't like the possessed weapon system either. So, yeah. So, thoughts on the Crucible, because I don't want this to be a super long video. Darksiders 2 has the advantage. I think it's got a nicer looking Crucible. I think all the stuff in the background makes it more interesting, as does the use of colour. In fact, I think generally speaking, Darksiders 2 is more vibrant in many places. Don't get me wrong, I think Darksiders 3 is a really good looking game. As I was saying, especially when we got to the depths in the Darksiders 3 playthrough, a lot of people I'd heard saying, oh yeah, Darksiders 3 is really drab, it's really dull, it's really boring to look at. And I still don't think that's the case, but I do think, just in terms of the Crucible, a slight extra pop to the colour palette in Darksiders 2 has the edge. But Darksiders 3 has the edge in terms of the actual combat. The combat itself is more fun. It doesn't have as many options as Darksiders 2 does. Darksiders 2 very much has the edge in terms of the number of options that you have in combat. You know, all of the different items that you can use and stuff. Darksiders 3 just feels better combat-wise. Darksiders 2 feels very spammy, but with more options to spam. Darksiders 3 feels more tactical and more weighty to an extent. You don't necessarily feel the weight of your blows or the weight of getting hit in Darksiders 2 because life leech, health steal, whatever you want to call it, it really does trivialise things in Darksiders 2. Even on the highest difficulty, if you get a lifesteal weapon, you can breeze through the game. You know, as soon as you got the, was it the Vandersmash hammer that I've got currently equipped? No, Skeletal Axe of Rending is what I've currently got equipped. It just trivialises things. The balanced chaos enhancement in Darksiders 3 trivialises things on the lower difficulties for sure. not denying that. I mean, the Crucible run that I did where I finally got to Wave 101, which was on the lower difficulty, it was on the story difficulty, which I think I forgot to say in the video, but I do say in the comments or the description. Yeah, absolutely trivial. You know, I barely broke a sweat in that, but after 5 attempts, you know, even though I enjoyed the combat, having to work my way through 100 waves, not knowing whether the game was going to crash again, whether it was going to bug out again, that for me was not enjoyable. As much as I like the combat. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be saying, well, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't balance up. It does in my head. Sorry if it doesn't in yours. Anyway, I've rambled on for long enough here. So, Darksiders 2's Crucible. Just the 30 waves or so that I've done. Obviously there's more variety to it later on because the game has a lot more enemies, a lot more bosses, a lot more mini bosses to draw from. It is a bigger game made by a studio 3 times the size of the ones that made Darksiders 2. Now, if you are of the opinion, sorry, 3 times the size of the ones that made Darksiders 3. If you are of the opinion that, you know, Darksiders 3, they should have waited another 6 months and added a lot more content in, then nothing that I can say is ever going to make you like or appreciate Darksiders 3 as a game. If you are all about more content for your buck, you are always going to be prejudiced against games from smaller studios. Although, of course, Hollow Knight, made by 2 people, plus a third, on occasion, obviously hundreds of hours from that game. For what it is, Darksiders 3's Crucible is good. It's not great, it's not amazing, it's not exciting, it's not the ultimate of excitement. I mean, it is exciting in a way. It's just not, I think, what people were looking for in a game that's already got a lot of negative press. But let's be honest, folks. I mean, if you take a look at YouTube, if you take a look at Twitch, if you take a look at, you know, social media, negativity is what sells. Negativity is what gets you views. It's the clickbait of things, and I don't like negativity. You know, I'm a school teacher. I get enough negativity when I'm at work, and the overarching trend of, yeah, hate sells, vitriol sells, vitriol gets views, vitriol gets likes. People that are enjoying video games are outplaying the video games. It's all the people that don't like things that feel that justification. Oh, I don't like this, so other people must not like this. I need to go out and search for other people that don't like things. That's not what I'm about, you know. So, Darksiders 3's Crucible, is it an amazing piece of content? No, it's not great. Is it $5.99, I think, for those of us that didn't have the deluxe edition? Is it a great piece of content for £6? I imagine you could get a few hours worth of play out of it. Is it for me? No, not particularly. Does that make it bad? No. You know, I like Darksiders 3's combat, but I don't just want to do Darksiders 3's combat. I play games for exploration and story. So it was never going to be the ultimate mind-blowing experience for me. I enjoyed what I played of it. I enjoyed that feeling of having to get good and the salty bits. And you could probably tell that from the first 4 episodes of the Crucible, that I was enjoying it, even if I was in some places a bit frustrated. Because it was challenging, and that was the point. Anyway, I am rambling on. Apologies if you have stuck it out this far. If you have stuck it out this far, thank you very much for sticking with me as I just blah blah blah. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm not going to say in-depth look, but this constructive critique of the Darksiders 2 and 3 Crucible. And I hope that answers any questions that you might have about my general opinion of it. Obviously, I didn't play through the entirety of Darksiders 2's Crucible. That was beyond the scope of what I have time for today. But it gives you a sense of what you can get. And of course, there are plenty of videos out there on YouTube with the general, this is the Crucible, this is what it's like. You know, fight your way through, go and fight Wicked K at the end. All is good. If you have enjoyed the video, and if you have enjoyed my feedback, my critique, whatever you want to call it, remember to leave a like. If you completely disagree with me, tell me why. Tell me why you think Darksiders 2's combat was better, or why you think the inventory system was better, or you know, why did you enjoy Darksiders 2 and maybe not Darksiders 3? I personally think Darksiders 3 is the better game than 2. But that's the whole point of personal opinions. It is very subjective. That is what opinions are. Just because you do not like something does not mean that everybody else in the world must not like it as well. But I'm not ranting anymore today. I hope you've enjoyed this video, folks. If you have, do leave a like, subscribe for more, click the notification icon, etc, etc. The outro is going to repeat all of this in like 5 seconds anyway. Oh, and apologies. I'm recording this after I've already put the episode together. Apologies for some slight audio clipping in places. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that. I'm going to go back through my audio settings and see, because there's a little bit of distortion and peaking at the top end on some things, and I don't know why. Not an expert or professional. Can you tell? I can tell. I'm rambling again. Toodle pip. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe. Remember to ring the bell notification icon to get notified when new videos go live. And until next time, toodle pip.